If you've ever stood in front of a lighting rack and felt that uneasy knot in your stomach, wondering whether you're about to spend a fortune on a fixture that won't actually fit the look you're after, you're not alone. The fear of buying a high-wattage LED wash and ending up with a color temperature that looks too clinical or a beam that never quite covers the space is real, especially when you're working on a limited budget and need every dollar to count. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and that's where you'll find the Elation Artiste Rembrandt High-Efficiency 950W 6500K White LED Wash, a mouthful that promises a lot but also raises the usual "does it really deliver?" questions. I spent the last few weeks talking to a handful of lighting designers, scanning the spec sheets that Elation publishes, and watching a few live streams where the fixture was actually being used on stage. The consensus was simple: this is a very focused tool for people who need a lot of clean, bright white light without the heat and power draw of traditional metal halide. That said, it's not the universal do-everything fixture you might be tempted to throw into a general-purpose shop inventory. Let's walk through what that means in practice. First off, the 950-watt LED array is impressive. In a typical theater or concert hall, you're often fighting against ambient light from other sources, and you need something that can punch through with a crisp, daylight-balanced hue. The 6500 Kelvin output does exactly that. It gives you that sterile, almost studio-like quality that is perfect for highlighting choreography, creating sharp shadows, or washing a backdrop with a neutral tone that won't clash with gels or colored LEDs you might layer on top. If your production relies heavily on whitewash for set pieces, this is the sort of fixture that can replace a couple of older 1000-watt HMI units, saving you both power consumption and heat load. One practical strength that designers keep mentioning is the fixture's dimming curve. Because it's LED, you get smooth, linear dimming from 0 to full intensity, which is something you rarely get from a conventional discharge lamp without flicker. In real-world rehearsals, that translates to being able to pull the light down to a barely there wash for a quiet, intimate moment and then bring it back up instantly for a high-energy number without any noticeable jump. The fixture's DMX integration is also straightforward. Elation's software maps the 0255 range cleanly, and the fixture responds without the latency you sometimes hear with older LED modules. Now, where the Rembrandt High shows its trade-offs is in the color palette. It's a pure white LED, which means you won't get any built-in color mixing capabilities. If you're looking for a single unit that can shift from a cool white to a warm amber or throw a splash of pink, you'll need to add a separate color changer or combine it with other RGB or RGBA fixtures. That's not a flaw per se, but it does limit the flexibility of the unit. For venues that already have a robust color mixing rig, this is fine. You'll simply use the Rembrandt for its clean white output and let the other fixtures handle the hues. For a small touring crew hoping to get away with a one-fixture do-everything approach, you might end up needing an extra piece of gear, which eats into the savings you thought you were making. Another point that came up in conversation with a few road crew members is the physical size and weight. The housing is robust enough for permanent installations, but it's not exactly featherlight. At nearly 40 pounds, it's something you'll need a dedicated mounting bracket or a sturdy truss to secure. The weight isn't a deal-breaker if you're installing it in a fixed location, say, a theater balcony or a permanent architectural lighting grid, but for a touring rig that's constantly being loaded and unloaded, you'll want to factor in the extra labor time. The fixture does include a standard clamp and a quick-release latch, which speeds up the mount and unmount process, but you still have to be mindful of the load limits on your truss. In terms of power consumption, the 950W rating is deceptive if you compare it directly to an older metal halide of the same wattage. Because it's LED, the actual draw on the mains is closer to 600 watts, which translates to lower electricity costs and less strain on your venue's power distribution. That also means you'll generate far less heat, which can be a game changer in a cramped backstage area or a small club where cooling is already a challenge. Several venue operators I spoke with highlighted that they could run the fixture continuously for long shows without worrying about the HVAC system kicking in to compensate for a hot lamp. Who should consider buying the Elation Artiste Rembrandt High Efficiency? If you are a lighting designer or venue manager who regularly needs a high output, clean whitewash for theater productions, dance performances, or architectural projects where color fidelity is critical,